With us now is David Armstrong. Welcome to the show, David.
Hi, Donna. It's great to be here.
Well, I want to congratulate you. You have a new baby, and I have it with me right now.
I feel like I gave birth. It was 2 years of my life, absolutely. It was a long pregnancy, I guess.
Oh, indeed. Broadway Nation. There are years and years of research that you were able to tap into to cull together the essence of a wonderful book. We were saying before the camera started rolling, it's almost a textbook, if you will. It's so accurate and so historical. What made you decide to start on this journey?
So I was actually approached by the publishers. I teach a course on the history of the Broadway musical at the University of Washington School of Drama. And out of that, I started a podcast also called Broadway Nation. That was basically, my idea was to take my lectures from my university courses and make a sort of more general audience friendly version of them. And then the podcast has been very successful. And then the publishers of the book, Methuen and Drama, which is an imprint of Bloomsbury Publishing, knew about it, found out about it, and asked me if I would be interested in writing a book, which actually, as you just said, they're interested in promoting as a textbook for university programs, although I wrote it for a general audience as well.
Congratulations for that. You know, I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. I moved to New York quite a long time ago, but there's nothing quite like that feeling of being there, Broadway, right? I love musicals, always have, I continue to love them. What started your passion for that? At what age did you kind of develop that? Because you've produced, you've done so many different things, and what started the love of Broadway for you personally?
From the very beginning, I was one of those weird children who just was immediately drawn to everything about musical theater, mostly from movies, because I grew up in Cincinnati, not so far from you in St. Louis. And what I knew about Broadway musicals mostly came from seeing movies on television. And of course, during the 60s, when I was a child, that was when all those big movie musicals were being made, Oliver and Sound of Music, one after another, sort of like the golden age of Broadway rebooted on the movie screens back then. So I just knew that I was just immediately drawn to it. I was one of those weird kids who would organize the whole neighborhood into putting on shows that I would direct and write and star in. So in some ways, I always say I've been doing what I do now as a producer and a director since I was 9 years old, basically.
Absolutely beautiful. What is a ticket stub or a favorite piece of memorabilia that is in your own private collection that you absolutely still cherish?
For me, I probably, and I've talked about this show, significantly in the book, the opening night tickets to Hairspray on Broadway, which I'm happy to say I ran the Fifth Avenue Theater in Seattle for 18 years, and we did the world premiere of Hairspray at the Fifth Avenue Theater. So to see that show go from its initial workshops and readings all the way to its first performance in Seattle and then opening night on Broadway was one of the most thrilling experiences of my life. And one of the joys of this book is, although I talk about, in the book, I write about the history of Broadway and about many things, of course, I didn't experience because they happened way before my time. This was a place where I get to draw from my own personal experiences and write about that, which was really exciting.
Well, our show airs in Seattle. It's one of our top wonderful cities that we absolutely love and adore. And it was wonderful for me to realize that you started so many different things there too. Also Aladdin, The Christmas Story. You've worked and workshopped so many different musicals. And I guess that's kind of how it works. It's almost like minor league baseball and then it makes the majors. Would you say that that's a good analogy for those that are watching this?
Absolutely, very, very much. And with a Broadway musical, you don't know what you have until you put it in front of an audience. You can't just put it out of the box. You have no idea, and then the show changes and grows and evolves. So that process throughout the history of Broadway, and the book covers 125 years of the Broadway musical. In the old days, they used to go out of town to Boston and New Haven. You probably know the song, another opening, another show in Philly, Boston, or Baltimore. Exactly. That was all about that old-fashioned out-of-town tryout period. Now it mostly happens at regional theaters around the country. But the same process is happening. You put it up in front of an audience, the audience responds and participates, and then the show changes and evolves, and eventually will go, if it goes to Broadway, it's because that audience helped you make it.
Yes, indeed. And it is truly all about the audience, that give and take, if you will. You know, they say the grease paint and, you know, the lights, and the whole phrase about breaking a leg is basically when you're like on stage and like you want, you know, the applause and everything, and then the stage lights are down below. It's like there's so much of theater that represents life and life that represents theater. And there's nothing better than a musical or a Broadway show or something that just makes you emote, takes you on a journey, if you will, where we can just escape reality and just embrace being somewhere, anywhere, right?
I couldn't agree with you more.
I also
And
like
one of
to
the
sing in
great,
my, yes?
go ahead. I was going to say one of the amazing things about the Broadway musical, and as I wrote this book, is it's so tied into the history of America. So the history I talk about in the book is as much about the way this country developed and the kinds of people that created the Broadway musical and then how they changed America in the process of creating it.
Well, you know, David, if they could see us now, right?
Exactly. I write about that. That's from Sweet Charity. It's also a show that gets featured in the book as well. And the authors of that, what most people don't know is how much women were involved in the history of the Broadway musical. And that's one of the things I highlight. And that lyric you were just singing was written by Dorothy Fields, one who had a 50-year career on Broadway and wrote many of the greatest songs ever written for the Broadway musical.
It's such a delight and a joy to have you here. Thank you so much for your kindness. Thank you for, you know, dedicating many, many years of your life that are in these pages. It's wonderful. It's comprehensive. It's well done. It's thoughtful. It's a winner. So congratulations. I even love this. I love this. You know, you have like really great illustrations that are in here too that just kind of document what happened. This one is on page 154. It's a Broadway musical, and it's how things get from, you know, going back to 1873 all the way to 1947. You have timelines. So this is a really thoughtful retrospective of Broadway. And gosh, David, thank you so very much for putting this all together, for spending late nights, as I'm sure that you did, to create this into reality. So,
Thank you,
bravo.
Donna. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to tell people about it.
Bravo. And if I could stand up, I'd give you a standing ovation. So way to go, David Armstrong. Yay!
Thank you.
Woo! Big round of applause. Okay. Thank you. It was a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so
Great.
much.
Wonderful to be with you, Donna. Thank you so much. Can't wait
You're welcome.
to have everyone hear about it. Thank you.
Yeah, exciting. Okay, be well, my friend. Take care.